All right, so we've got two other types of muscle we're going to talk about. Let's go ahead and jump right into cardiac muscle first. Cardiac muscle tissue is only found in the heart, made up of cardiac muscle cells. They have excitable membranes like skeletal muscles, and they're striated like skeletal muscles. And so cardiac muscles are kind of a sort of in between skeletal muscles and smooth muscles. So here is a diagram of skeletal or cardiac muscles. Now, here's some of the differences, okay? Cardiac muscles and cardiac muscle cells typically are smaller than skeletal muscle cells. They have a single nucleus with branches coming off of that nucleus, and you can see that right here. Here's that branch that I was talking about. They have short, very wide T-tubules. The sarcoplasmic reticulum is slightly different. There's way more myoglobin and mitochondria, so it's almost entirely aerobic metabolism. The endurance that cardiac muscle has is unmatched in any other tissue you have in your body. The amount of force it brings to bear, not as much. Skeletal muscle can definitely is capable of more force, but not nearly the level of endurance. And the individual cells are in contact with each other with structures that are called intercalated discs. And so here's a diagram, a close-up of these intercalated discs. And so these are specialized connections between the sarcolemmas of adjacent cells. And they stabilize the positions of adjacent cells relative to each other, maintain a three-dimensional structure of the tissue, and allow ions to move more freely from one cell to the other. And so this lets cardiac cells beat in a rhythm. Now, one of the things we're going to talk about the heart and this contraction cycle. There's a wave-like motion, and these intercalated discs are important in allowing that rhythmic contraction to take place. Cardiac muscles, functional characteristics of cardiac muscles. Automaticity basically means they contract on their own. You don't have to mentally tell your heart to beat. Now, there are nerve cells called pacemaker cells that do that for you, but that's not neural tissue like nerve tissue. Okay, it's similar to it, but it's not connected to your nervous system. Now, your nervous system can alter the pace and the tension of the contractions, beat harder, beat faster in a fight or flight response, for example, or slow it down in a rest and digest sort of situation. The contractions last longer, and the refractory period lasts longer, and the certain types of contractions are prevented because of the sarcolemma itself. Smooth muscle tissue then is really kind of weird. You find it in a bunch of different places. The erector pili muscle in the integumentary system is smooth muscles, the ones that are responsible for raising your hairs up when you have goosebumps. Certain parts of the cardiovascular and respiratory system, airways and blood vessels have smooth muscle. They regulate blood pressure in your arteries mostly, and airflow in the air passages, open up, closing, so vasodilation, vasoconstriction, that sort of thing. Digestive and urinary systems. These are the sphincters that move materials through the body and then out of the body. And then the reproductive system, smooth muscles are responsible for transporting gametes, and expelling the fetus is a super sort of like cynical way of describing birth. Now, smooth muscles are kind of interesting. So smooth muscles are long and slender and spindle-shaped. They have a single central nucleus. They don't really have any of the other structures. They don't have myofibrils. They don't have sarcomeres. They don't have T-tubules. So one major characteristic of smooth muscle, it is non-striated or unstriated. They have scattered thick filaments with a lot of myosin heads. The thin filaments attach, if you look at the top section up here, all the thin filaments attach at structures known as dense bodies. They connect adjacent cells to each other, looking at the middle picture, and transmit contractions through the muscle tissue. They don't have tendons, they don't have aponeuroses, those flat sheets. And they're able to contract kind of along any sort of plane. And so their excitation-contraction coupling is different because of the filament arrangement and stuff like that. The length-tension relationships are different. There's not really one. The length of the smooth muscle doesn't determine the amount of tension that it can bear. Control of contractions is completely involuntary. There's not really even like with cardiac muscle, where there is some influence that the nervous system has on it, and you can sort of consciously slow your heart rate and stuff like that. You can't do that at all with smooth muscle. And the reason why the muscle tone is all smooth. You don't have sort of changes in muscle and stuff like that you have with other structures. So that's it. There's not really any more we're going to talk about with those types of muscles. We will get into a little bit more of cardiac muscle function, but we save that for when we do the cardiovascular system. So that's it. Hey, send me a message, send me an email if you have any questions. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you all in class.